Oh, we're still at that. So, have you ever heard the phrase, there's a plugin for that? I guess if you're into the Gatsby space or was ever part of the WordPress community, I'll assume you have. In both cases, you could say that there's an ocean of plugins out there. You have your beautiful tall ships, you have your need a little bit of repair before using, and your absolute wrecks. So what do you do if you experience one of those last two? I would say keep calm and code your own Gatsby plugin. Greetings, Jamstack Pirates. I'm Queen Raae, and I'm here to give you a head start on your Gatsby plugin journey. When I'm not on stage, I maintain Gatsby plugins for clients. I help you navigate the sharky waters around the Gatsby Islands. I also create a jam together project for fun and profit. I do all of this together with my piratical family, and the pirate princess here is very sad. She's back in Oslo, but she's created, we've lost a slide, but she's created a Gatsby sticker, so if you talk to me afterwards, you'll get one of those. So Gatsby is one of the web frameworks. It supports all of the acronyms. I'm not going to get into that here, but one of the things that I've always found to be interesting with Gatsby is their data layer. So instead of kind of building or pulling in the data when you're doing your templating, you pull in all the data into unified data layer, and then that is what informs and generates your site. And they have taken that layer out and released it the other day as Valhalla. And as you can see here, you no longer need to use Gatsby as your framework. You can use any framework, and you'll still be able to use their data layer. So where do the plugins come in? If you do choose Gatsby here, the plugins can plug into the whole kind of life cycle. If you choose to stick with Gatsby, you can still use the plugins, or choose to stick with Valhalla, you could still use the plugins that work on the Gatsby data layer, or now called Valhalla. So, around this time last year, I got really nostalgic. I was missing the snow that kept falling on my old WordPress blog. So I thought, maybe there's a plugin that will do that, as it was in the WordPress community. I couldn't find that plugin, so I kept calm and coded my own. I remembered that Canvas Confetti had a setting that gives you snow. So even though it's mostly used for like big-ass confetti things, you can also get a snow configuration. And all of this will happen in the browser. We only want snow to fall when a person arrives at the site, and we don't want to keep giving them snow or confetti as they move around the site. And to do so, we can hook into the Gatsby browser API. And then specifically for this case, we'll use the onInitialClient render. If we did the onRoute update, we would get snow on every change of our route, so we want to do it on onInitialClient render. And in these hooks, as I like to call them, we get the plugin options, how the plugin has been configured, and then we get the configuration from this object, and then we can go about doing the things that we wanted to do. So in this case, I've kind of left out the main code, but we check if it's the correct season, and then we do the confetti snowfall. I was blown away when I learned that you could use emojis as your favicon. So for any demo, project, or anything, I kept copy-pasting this little neat trick from project to project. And I thought, whenever you keep copy-pasting things, that is a good use case for a plugin. And I again went and looked, is there a plugin for this? No, there wasn't, so kept coded my own Gatsby plugin. So in this case, we want to do some changes to the HTML that is generated from the Gatsby framework. And when we want to hook into kind of that part of the Gatsby lifecycle, we want to do the Gatsby SSR, or SSR, USSR? No, SSR. And this is a little weirdly named because it's kind of legacy by this point. So this is the work that is done when pages are statically generated, but also when they're server-side rendered. And in this case, we want to do something to the body. So kind of Gatsby owns everything kind of in the middle of your HTML site. That's what they kind of own. But then in these APIs, we can modify the surrounding HTML as well. So we want to use the onRender body, and you can see here we've gotten another object as well. We got the Gatsby utils. So in the Gatsby utils, you will always find functions that can help you out within the hook that you're in. So we grab the set head components, and then we grab our configuration, and then we do our little trick and add the emoji as our fav icon. We're back here to the Valhalla image because we're going to talk about, the most powerful plugins of all in the Gatsby ecosystem, and that is the data layer plugins. So as you can see, I guess on this side, they have listed a lot of their official plugins. We got the Contentful, the WordPress, the Shopify, the Drupal that I think Gatsby maintains themselves, or at least help maintain. But what if you have a data source that doesn't have a plugin? And what if you have a data source that doesn't even have an API? So for this case, again, let's keep calm and just code our own plugin. When there is no API, you can do web scraping. And then my good friend has a web scraping service called ScrapingBee, which just makes like any web page into an API. So for the case here where we're talking about pulling in webinars from Crowdcast that doesn't have an API, we'll use the ScrapingBee service to kind of bridge that gap. But if you had an API, you would just talk to that API as you normally will. So in this case, it gets a little bit more complicated. We're hooking into the data layer, and when we do that, we're working in the Gatsby node file. And in this case, we want to source data, and in the Gatsby world, we are sourcing data nodes, because this is all going to end up as a GraphQL layer, or GraphQL layer. So again, we are grabbing the Gatsby utils, and I can see here that I fixed this on the slide, but there should be the Gatsby utils and then the plugin options. So we are grabbing some functions from the Gatsby util object, and then we're also grabbing the configurations from the plugin options, which is wrongly named here. And then we are calling out to our API, and we're grabbing the content that we need. And in this case, we're using ScrapingBee. So we get all of these webinars, and when we loop through them, and we create a node per webinar. And there are two things here that are really important to know, and that is that in the ID, it needs to be unique for your use case or in the world of your plugin. By using the create node ID helper from Gatsby, they will make sure that the ID is unique in the whole, your whole Gatsby project, but you have to make sure that what you give that function is unique in your world. And then the second one is all the way to the bottom. We are also giving it a content digest. This is a hash of your content so that Gatsby will know when the content changes. Because if you're sourcing these webinars again and again and they haven't changed, we don't need to do all of the other things that we do in the data layer, transforming and adding different things. Like we can stop the process because it hasn't changed. So those two things are really important to get correct when you are working with Gatsby nodes. And we are getting, all the information here. We have our title, we have our URL, and all of those things. We also have the cover source, which is a link or URL to an image. But that image lives somewhere else. Like it's not living in our world, it's living out there on the internet. Crowdcast could at any point just remove that image, change the URL, and we wouldn't know. So an interesting thing we can then do with Gatsby is we can download these images as content nodes as well. And then we have control of that image. So for the build that we're in, we know we have the image. And then when we source again, we will get the updated images. So the things on the internet out there can change, but we will not have broken images on our site. And to do so, we use the onCreate node. So this is fired whenever a Gatsby node is created. If it hasn't changed, it will not be called. So if the node hasn't changed, we will not keep downloading these images. This is quite a lot of code. I'm not going to go through all of that because this is where the Gatsby plugin ecosystem really shines, because we can remove all of that code and use the Gatsby plugin remote images instead. We'll configure this plugin to know what the shape of our nodes, and then we'll grab the URL and download the images for us. So why make it a plugin? If you are familiar with Gatsby, all of this code that I'm showing you could have done that directly into the Gatsby project. And you wouldn't have to really need, or you don't have to make it a plugin. I personally really like to make these things into plugin because it is a standardized way to modularize your code, and it gives you a standardized way to configure these plugins. So as you can see here, for the 3 examples we've had today, you can read through this Gatsby config file, and you can quickly see what features we are using and how we are configuring them. So for the ScrapingBee example, we're getting the value from the environment variables, but I feel like this is easier to read than to have to go through and dig through where are we configuring our different packages. We can just read through the Gatsby config file. Gatsby also gives us a standardized way to then validate if the configuration a user is doing is correct. And it's a little underutilized, but I really love this because it makes it easy for me to create validation rules so that a user who's configuring the plugin wrong will get good messages. And I could, of course, have done this for any NPM package, but then I would have come up with a pattern. But using the plugin system, I can use the standardized way that Gatsby would like me to do it. So what exactly is a plugin? It's basically a folder. It has to have a packaged JSON file that conforms to a specific set of rules, and then you put in your plugin code. So for our Let It Snow example, that would be our Gatsby browser file. For the Emoji favicon example, that would be our Gatsby SSR file. And then for the webinar example, that would be our Gatsby node file. And you can use all of them or some of them, depending on what your plugin needs to do. Then you can add this folder either locally. You can add it to a plugins folder inside your Gatsby project. You could utilize Yarn or NPM workspaces and kind of pretend that you have a published, or treat it like a published NPM package. Or you could publish it onto the NPM registry and install it and use it from there. So I was super quick, so you all get to go to lunch on time, I think. If you want to learn more about plugins, you can head on over to queenraae.code/jam and sign up for information there. And there are also links to the Gatsby plugin starter I created that will help you scaffold out a new plugin. Thank you.